Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us back to the Kenai Peninsula in southeast Alaska. The Dena'ina, a First Nations group of the area, refer to the mountains here as Yaganandagili, which means good land mountains. It seems they were right in naming it that because it's a great spot for growing large brown bears. Just about a dozen miles north of a place called Cooper Landing is Resurrection Pass. A few miles away from that is Devil's Pass. It seems fitting that today's episode would take place here, given it involves a man raising from what could have been his death and one devil of a brown bear. The Kenai Mountains are the source of several glaciers and creeks and rivers that run from them. It is these rivers that flood with migrating salmon each summer, drawing hungry bears to their brushy banks. One such creek is Abernathy Creek, which is described by governmental scientists as prime brown bear habitat. Along the trail accessing Abernathy Creek, it rises to 2,600 feet and descends to 500 feet in elevation over its 39-mile length. Dense brush and berry bushes about 4 feet tall mix with grasses to conceal any animal just shorter than an average man's height. Animals that call this place home include moose, caribou, Dall sheep, and mountain goats. Predators here include black bears, wolves, and brown bears. People are a common sight here, but with salmon and berries to feed on, supplemented by prey animals, bears leave people alone and flee at their sight, as long as they're not surprised or threatened. By the early afternoon of August 17, 2024, 32-year-old Tyler Johnson was slowly and cautiously making his way through some brush about 10 yards behind his father, Chris. The avid hunters and outdoors enthusiasts had never hunted this location before, but had decided to pursue black bears on this trip, which was one of dozens the father and son had completed together. Now these two fellows were not just your random hunters who managed to make their way into the backcountry. Chris was an Alaska wildlife trooper and former United States Forestry and Wildlife officer. He was trained in first aid and known to be prepared for disasters whenever he went into the woods. Chris raised Tyler in Sterling, Alaska, and his son graduated from Soldotna High School. Tyler married his wife Lacy soon after that, and they relocated their family to Austin, Texas, for a job opportunity. Chris and Tyler planned and completed regular hunting trips as often as they could, and enjoyed the time together. On day 3 of their bear hunt, the hunters stealthily made their way through a clump of dense brush into a grassy meadow. Chris entered the meadow first and was several yards into it when Tyler, who was just emerging from the brush along the meadow's edge, heard his father bark out, "Bear!" A little information about the size of a brown bear is needed to understand just how the hunters walked upon it. In the summer, brown bears range in size from 500 pounds to 900 pounds. As fall approaches, binging on salmon and berries can send a large brown bear's weight to over 1,400 pounds. If you've ever been at the ag barns at the county fair, you may have seen the cold-blood horses, like Clydesdales or Pershings. A large cold-blood stud will stand well over 6 feet high at the withers, or shoulders to non-horse people, and weigh in at 1,700 to 2,200 pounds. A massive brown bear may approach 5 feet tall at the shoulders, but can be close to that same weight. This gives you an idea of just how immense some brown bears can become. Chris reached his hand to retrieve his sidearm while the bear rumbled a growl that filled the air around he and his son. The angry bear dashed toward Chris as he yelled, only to veer off and head on a direct collision course with Tyler. Tyler had his sidearm stashed in a holster mounted to his backpack. He reached around and fumbled with a pistol as the bear closed the distance between them quickly. It seemed for each inch his arm traveled, the bear covered 10 feet of ground, and there wasn't much ground between them to start with. As soon as it was within striking distance, the bear swatted Tyler's left shoulder. His backpack bore most of the brunt, but the power of the swat sent Tyler flying backwards. As he flew through the air, he managed to wrestle his 10mm Glock 40 from its holster and fire it. The only problem was his feet were now where his head was, and his left leg was now where the bear was. The searing hot bullet sent a shock of pain through the muscle on the outside portion of his left thigh. The bullet entered just above his knee and exited beside it on the outside. With Tyler upside down, the bear clamped its jaws onto his right thigh muscle and tore into his right calf muscle, leaving gaping wounds wherever it bit. It clawed and bit, opening huge gashes on his right quad and left shoulder. The furious bear resembled a tornado of claws and snapping jaws, and Tyler knew he had to stop it before it took his life. Tyler fired 7 shots in rapid succession into the bear's chest as it stood over him, while his father reeled off an unknown series from his pistol from behind it. They say the number 7 is a lucky number, and there may be something to that. Tyler's 7th round struck the bear in the spine and dropped it in its tracks. Tyler stared into the bear's eyes as they changed from fury-filled to unfocused and still. While firing at the bear, Chris was running toward it. As it keeled over, he fired a coup de grace into its head for some affordable insurance. With a lot of backcountry experience and a significant amount of first aid training, father and son immediately began addressing Tyler's wounds. After setting him up, Chris placed a tourniquet around Tyler's bullet wound to his thigh. The pain of the tourniquet was extreme, and Tyler related it to feeling like the bear still had a hold of him. The trauma kit in Tyler's backpack came in useful as Quick Clot was administered by his father to control the bleeding in his calf and thigh wounds. Using a bandana for an impromptu bandage limited the bleeding of the bite wounds on Tyler's thigh. Now these fellas may not have brought along bear spray, but they did bring a Garmin InReach. It doesn't repel a bear unless they're tired of infiltration of electronic devices into their society the way I am. This important piece of electronic doodaddery is one of the most important items anyone can carry while venturing into the backcountry. Chris typed out an emergency request for assistance just before 3 p.m. and waited eagerly for an affirmative reply. While waiting for help, Chris encouraged Tyler to tell him hunting stories to take his mind off the pain. Alaska Wildlife Troopers processed the message sent by Chris around 3 p.m. A rescue helicopter from the Alaska Department of Public Safety was en route shortly thereafter and arrived in 1 hour from initial contact. During the hour wait, Tyler recorded a 6-minute video, which I've linked to in the video article below this video. It shows how remarkably composed he was after such a harrowing and terrifying ordeal. Both men exhibited focus following the attack, which likely limited any complications. While they waited, Chris ran off additional bears that approached them in the brush, which you can hear on that video. Tyler was airlifted to Providence, Alaska Medical Center in Anchorage. The bite wounds to his right thigh and right calf were cleaned and sutured shut. The claw gashes on his left shoulder and right thigh were treated in a similar fashion. The self-inflicted gunshot wound to his thigh was cleaned out as well, and his injuries will be monitored for sign of infection from bacteria present in the bear's mouth and claws. Tyler handled the medical treatment so well that he was released the same night he was admitted. As for Chris, he was left at the attack scene with the dead bear, as he was not able to fit on the helicopter that transported Tyler. A second helicopter from the Alaska Rescue Coordination Center picked him up and brought him to safety shortly thereafter. As for the bear, its carcass had not yet been recovered from the site as of the compiling of the research of this video. Investigators chalked the attack up to hunters surprising it as it slept in the grass. By both hunters' accounts, it was alone, and there were no cubs seen in proximity to it. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to our episodes, and the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me to continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. From his hospital bed, Tyler expressed sadness at what had happened. He stated that the bear was simply trying to escape from being near Chris and had fled down the nearest path in the brush directly toward Tyler. This year there were 2 other grizzly or brown bear attacks in the United States territory. Both are featured on this channel and linked below in the video article for your review. The state of Alaska hosts an estimated 30,000 brown bears, including grizzly bears. That makes up 98% of all brown bear populations in the United States and 70% of North America's. Including urban areas, Alaska has a brown bear density of 1 bear for every 22 square miles. In 2016, the International Union of the Conservation of Nature published a statement indicating brown bears are a species of least concern for survival. This brings to mind questions about the need to reintroduce brown bears into habitat currently frequented by people, agriculture, and ranching. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Do you think this bear meant to attack Tyler, or was it simply trying to escape? Would bear spray have prevented this attack, or could it have even been dispensed properly? Is it surprising to you that a brown bear can still attack a person while being pumped full of 14 10mm bullets? It is a little alarming to me. I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.